Subtle skills, big results.
Welcome to the Ninja Selling Podcast. Welcome back to the Ninja Selling Podcast. Matt and Garrett are back again and excited to be with you and share some time. I always appreciate everybody who shows up and spends their mornings, afternoons, evenings with us. Very fun. I keep reaching out to more people that are listeners, and to hear that how much you all enjoy what we are putting out here means the world to us. So thank you very much for always sharing that with me. As we continue, as we always do, if you want to learn more about what Matt and I are talking about and where this all comes from, go to ninjaselling.com. Both Matt and I are in the coaching department. And if you want to learn more about coaching and how that works through Ninja Selling, you can go learn that through there and find out more information. And Matt, jumping into today, I figure we can send people to the podcast group and all that at the end. You have a topic today, and I want to jump into that. I'm excited to talk to you about it. And yeah, man, good morning.
Good morning, Garrett. Hope that you're doing fantastic, everybody who's listening. Garrett, how's the rib? Better?
The rib is hanging in there. We're coming around.
That's good.
There was a bad week. 2 weeks ago was a bad week, but today's much better. This week is much better.
Oh, man. Well, hopefully that heals up nice and quick. We gotta step up our physical performance here.
No sneezing. That's my thing I've learned. No sneezing. As long as you don't sneeze, everything is okay. How's your back, man?
It's good. It's actually really good. Making great progress. I'm not fully there yet, but the goal is hopefully be running by the end of February. So we'll see.
Nice, man. Love it.
Well, so thinking of those things, rib, back, right? Healing from something requires discipline and showing up, doing the things that you need to do or not doing the things you shouldn't be doing that can impede recovery. And one thing that's been coming up for me with a lot of coaching calls, because we've been talking about whys, we've been talking about systems a bit over the past few podcasts, but the discipline is such a crucial element. And we've done podcasts on this before, but what I'm seeing in this, it kind of happens this time of year as we head into February, that all that energy to kick the year off is like all of a sudden starting to fade a little bit, and people start to drop some disciplines, and particularly just showing up, right? Making sure that they are arriving each day to work on their business. And a lot of people are getting stuck in the business stuff right now, Garrett. I'm seeing a lot of people getting stuck on just, I'm realtoring again, like I'm doing realtor stuff, but they're not really doing the things. And that's coming down to just a mindset of discipline. There's actions there, but there's also just, making that decision. Do I want to be disciplined or do I want to be distracted? So figure we could talk about that a bit.
No, I think it's great right now. And, the marketplace that I'm watching here currently is that the ones that are disciplined and they are showing up, routinely, I'm hearing people saying, I'm having the strongest quarter I've ever had. I have more business lined up, more opportunities. And it's funny it's not just, there are sometimes you get to smoke and mirror show where we'll coach somebody and they're like, I have the biggest quarter I've ever had. And the problem is nothing's going to the closing table. Like, believe me, we've watched that happen where it's like, didn't we talk about the best quarter you ever had? And here you're sitting at the worst position you've ever been in your year. Like, why? Like, what happened with that best year ever, best quarter ever? And I'm actually seeing closings that are all correlating to the best start to a lot of people's years they've ever had. And we are talking about 2023 right now. So if you're listening to episodes and you're like, what year are they talking about? 2023. There are very much a kind of a night and day difference of what I'm watching with people that are putting closings together and building their business. And this is why I like what you brought up, Matt, talking about the discipline of these different people and how they are consistently showing up doing the right things. All comes down to the word discipline. They've got a plan and they're willing to commit to it right now.
Yeah. So one of the things, Garrett, that people will say, because I feel like whenever there's a discipline conversation happening on a coaching call, it's like the fourth or fifth time that conversation is happening, right? And so if you're out there and you're in coaching, if you're being coached and you feel like, man, I just, am I the only one that like can't get things together and seem to be falling down and missing the mark on this month over month? You're not alone. This is super common. It happens to all of us, particularly if you are new to implementing Ninja. And I don't necessarily mean new to Ninja because, hey, it took me, what, 3 years, Garrett, of knowing Ninja, quote unquote, implementing it before I called you and said, okay, I need to really do this now. And I need some support doing it. And so it's not like it's a flip of the switch type thing. This is something that needs to be exercised.
Well, and I think I get kind of an interesting insight into this because I do meet with all the Ninja coaches every single week. And I do get a chance to look into what are they seeing through all the people that they're coaching and the places that they're really struggling with people right now and the wins that they're having. And I always love because it's pretty much a very similar story as I meet with all the different coaches. It's not like I get like people that are like way off. It's like, wait, why is this coach having all these people doing this and this one's not seeing it all? I do see that the newer people coming into our program and embracing new systems and trying to figure out Ninja and how to make it work. Some of those coaches are like, oh my gosh, I can't have the conversation again about like the discipline and the consistency. And you got, like, it's one thing to do writing your notes once. It's another thing to do it every single week. It's another thing to go and do a real estate review. It's another thing to do 2 every single week and be consistent and have the discipline to show up over and over and over again for these people. I do see it with people that have been in coaching for a long time, which again, the longer coaches have more people. Like I have a lot of people that I've coached for a very, very, very long time. I'm not having to beat on them quite so much as some of the newer coaches with the newer people. And they're like, oh my gosh, I just need them to show up consistently. It would make the massive difference. And I am watching that right now, Matt, where the people that have been applying Ninja into their business for a while, applying into their database, they've got that long-term role going with these people. And that's where we're seeing these massive results out here right now. And I'm just going to encourage everybody and all these newer people coming into coaching, as well as people out there that are doing without a coach, and you can totally do without a coach. The faster you can figure out how to get that consistency around that, the discipline to show up every single time, no excuses, it's going to lead you to freedom faster. You're going to have a much easier time getting momentum going with this thing. And this marketplace will reward you right now around it.
Oh, massive rewards. I mean, if you're showing up consistently, there is people who need guidance. And this is typical beginning of the year stuff, right? I mean, buyers pick up, listings pick up. That's kind of the seasonality and that we see in real estate. But Gary, you talk a lot about obviously leaning into your why and understanding your why to create that vision that helps lead to discipline. And I would add, I know there's a lot of people who have the the vision, but they're still struggling with the discipline. And I look at that as, hey, every morning when you wake up, you need to be prepared to ask yourself a question. And that question is do I want to show up or do I want to be distracted? And if you ask that question first, you can start to avoid distraction, because the number one enemy of discipline, I would say, is distraction. Then depending on how you define distraction and all that stuff goes down a whole nother rabbit hole. But if distraction is the enemy of discipline, we need to identify it up front so that we know how to handle it when it arrives. Because if we don't address it, then we will get distracted. It's easy to get stuck into the TikToks and the Instagram reels and, let me go clean my desk.
We're in a world of distraction, Matt. Like, I mean, that's
man,
that's like every time we turn around, all you can ask for is another distraction to be like, it's either going to take control of you and take you down a rabbit hole, or you're going to get control of it and get to where you want to go.
Well, and then you get the Zillow calls and these calls. Hey, we got openings in your zip code. We got this. And it's like, try this new marketing strategy. And so then we have all the business distractions that are out there. And we're like, well, maybe I should go explore this. So this question that you ask in the morning, do I want to be disciplined or do I want to be distracted, almost primes your non-conscious, because most of this stuff is non-conscious. I mean, we've all been there, right? You open up your phone because you need to do something. And then all of a sudden, 10 minutes later, you're in Facebook saying, wait, I know I needed to do something. And now I'm here. What am I doing here? I've been there. I was there the other day. But when you ask this, you're tuning your non-conscious to say, hey, I'm going to pay attention now to when distractions arrive so that you can then make that decision of what we're going to do in that moment. And I find it super helpful. It's just a little thing. Mornings when I don't do that, Garrett, it's squirrels all over the place.
Well, I know in my world, the more that I can set myself up to do, the less I have time for the distractions. The weaker my plan is, the weaker my breakdown is of this is what my week is going to look like. This is what my week in two different ways, E, and then EA. And the weaker my week is planned out, what happens is that all of a sudden it's like I do come into the office in the morning, and instead of having a boom, 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 these are all the things that I've lined up for myself for the week. It's like, oh, I've got a little bit of time here. And that little bit of time all of a sudden just starts to meander throughout my day. And I find if I start that day wrong and I let it start to meander, I can lose control of it really fast. But man, if I can take the time every morning, especially every week, to really say, okay, this is my mission for the week. These are all the things that I want to accomplish. These are all the time that I have available to do it. It really helps me, Matt. I don't know if you do this, but I'll look at my calendar and just be like, here's my list of activities that I want to accomplish. And at the same time, how many hours do I have to get this stuff done? And more often than not, I have very, very limited hours. I think everybody has very limited hours around all the minutia of life and work. And if you can have that moment with yourself, all of a sudden you're like, look, if I'm going to be successful at this, I got to make every minute work for myself as I'm going to go through this week or through this day. And a lot that for me allows me to have more control instead of it's so easy when you're like, I got to send that email to somebody or that text. Usually it's a text and you pull up your phone and all of a sudden there's like this reminder that somebody messaged you in Facebook and you're like, oh, what was that? I didn't get to that yet. And 10 minutes later, you're like, who was I going to text?
Off you go. Yeah, you're gone. And we've talked a lot about calendaring. It's a great thing bringing that up too, because if you can start to fight distraction and engage discipline by just setting your week up, setting your time blocks up and adhering to that. And this bears repeating too. And I'm not talking about in a way where you've crammed your schedule so full that if something happens, the entire thing breaks, but where you do have, time built in to have focus time. One thing I've had a few clients experiment with, Garrett, I think maybe we've talked about it, the Pomodoro method, where it's like 25 minutes of focus work, 5 minutes break, 25 minutes focus work, 5-minute break.
I don't think we've talked about it on the podcast, but keep going.
For those of you who are like, Pomodoro was like, well, think of your like kitchen Pomodoro timer, tomato timer.
He's a bullfighter.
Bullfighter. All the same stuff. But this method came up where it's like, just time yourself in 25-minute chunks so that you're not trying to like take this massive 2-hour block where you think you can, well, I can just do a little bit of this. I got 2 hours, but it's just 25 minutes of focused effort. That's a nice way to start exercising discipline so that because anybody can show up for 25 minutes, right? You're like, well, I can let that email go for 25 minutes. Once we start getting 30 minutes, like, oh, I don't know. But 25 minutes, good. Then you get a 5-minute break, back to 25 minutes. That's a nice way to start setting up your calendar in these little chunks so that you can exercise this discipline and show up. So if you're having struggle showing up for an hour of power, instead of making it an hour, make it a 25-minute. If you're having problems showing up for handwritten notes, give yourself a 25-minute chunk. It's going to be so much easier to show up because that discipline, if you know where you're going and you're still struggling to do the things, like this is what we got to do.
You bring up, and you got my brain kind of running down time frames here because I think a lot of us, we do get lost in the hour time block. And I think a really good moment that people need to stop and realize about their business and growing is that you can get a lot done in a short amount of time when you're focused. You don't need an hour. I always laugh when we're doing Ford phone calls, when you're having people reach out and talk to people about family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. And they're like, you talk about 2 to 3 minutes. That's how long we want that phone call to be. And people are like, oh, but that's so short. Like it's just not that much time. I'm like, yeah, but when you're focused about it, 2 to 3 minutes is a great time to have a quick asking forward questions, learning about stuff, making an important phone call and being like, it was so great catching up with you, Matt. I got to run. It's amazing what you can accomplish in 2 to 3 minutes. But we turn it into these massive things that but they always turn into 15-minute phone calls because you're not disciplined when you make the phone call. You're meandering all over the place. They're meandering all over the place because you didn't set a platform or stage of how this was going to happen. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's just takes so much to make phone calls. Like, I don't know. I don't really like being on the phone. It seems like it takes over my day. And it's just because you're not disciplined about it. It's amazing what you can accomplish in a short amount of time. 25 minutes set aside, Matt, when you're working on a process, or maybe you're working on a new postcard, or maybe you want to research new stationery that you want to get. 25 minutes is a lot of time to hone in on one specific thought, get something checked off, get it done, and move along. I will say, though, if you give yourself that 5-minute break, there's a whole different level of discipline there to only let it be 5 minutes.
Yeah. Well, and when we say break, like, make it a true break, like nothing. You're not going to go do something else for work for those 5 minutes. You're literally going to do, like, go to the restroom, go grab some water, have a snack. Don't do anything. And then maybe you come back for a 25-minute email chunk, email and text chunk, right? You got to plan in these downtimes away from things. Otherwise, that's how we get burnout, which makes it harder to stay disciplined, because then we just tuning our non-conscious, going like, this is too hard. Like, every time I show up for this, I leave frustrated, right? Every time I show up for this, I get angry. Well, we need to break that cycle, because who wants to be disciplined to emotions of frustration and anger? Like, nobody.
Well, you just mentioned email, and like having a set block where you come back and handle text and email. Matt, both of you, we've seen people in our coaching time that are super disciplined about email, and they're like, I look at it twice a day. That's what I do. Or I look at it 3 times a day. I check it in the morning when I start my day, I check it midday, and I check it before I leave the office. And there's a lot of people that go like, oh my gosh, you must be missing so much authentic, awesome, needed communication during the day. And those people don't. It's amazing. They sit down, super focused. We're going to manage this day, this inbox. We're going to clean it all out. Who needs my feedback? Who can I pass off to other people that can answer those questions maybe faster than I can, so I can be efficient with it? And then you're back to, okay, we're done with that. That inbox is closed. And now we're moving into some other aspect of our business. That focus and that, going back to your word discipline, Matt, of being able to do it, is really impressive to watch. Not just somebody being able to do it, but then you watch the amount of control they have of where they're going and what they're building and what they're doing. And they're not at the mercy of everybody else. And it really just comes down to making a decision around that, that's how we're going to handle our business.
Mm-hmm.
Always pays out in benefit.
It's amazing that it always comes back to just making that decision. It's not knowing what to do. Y'all know what to do. I mean, maybe these are a few more tricks and things you can add to your repertoire if you hadn't heard of some of this stuff, but it comes down to making the decision. But if you take a step back and analyze, well, what am I doing? How is it making me feel? How do I turn this into something that actually makes me feel like I'm making progress, like I'm accomplishing things? And then you get to make the decision to do it. And I find, Garrett, the more we talk about things like this, topics like this, and things related to it, is the hard things are so simple. Like, this is really simple, but I'm not saying it's easy. Although if we say it's easy and we start to build that into our mind, maybe it then becomes easy as well. But if you're struggling, I don't want you to feel like, oh man, Matt's saying it's easy. I can't even do this. No, I get it. It's hard, but it is simple. And so don't overcomplicate the hard and thinking like, oh, well, it must be so complicated. No, the hard can be simple. And if we make the hard simple, then the simple becomes easy, or the hard becomes easy, something like that. Follow me here.
Okay, so let's just for fun simplify this a little bit. So talking to 50 people a week and asking them about things that are important to them, Matt, that's not hard.
It's simple.
If you took real estate out of the equation and you're like, my only job is to go talk to 50 people a week and be nice to them and ask them how their day is going and how was their weekend and what do they got plans for this weekend? Okay, great, check that box. Writing 2 handwritten notes a day. to tell people how much you appreciate them. Congratulations. Hey, just thinking about you, haven't talked to you in a while. That's a very, very, very simple system to do. Going out to lunch with people and making sure that you set time aside to be like, hey, wait, you eat lunch also? I eat lunch. How cool is this? Like,
you eat food?
We're not creating an environment where it's like, so you're required to take 2 people fishing every week. Like, that's different. Like, that's an environment that you're like, okay, not everybody fishes. So how in the world do I get people to go fishing with me? Like, it's lunch. We all eat.
Or you could take 2 people fishing if you want.
You could. You totally could, by the way. A little harder to set up, though. So you just start like looking at these simple systems. Lunch, okay, check the box. Real estate reviews. That's a little bit of a push for a lot of people. It's not, again, it's a little bit outside the box of just kind of the simple systems, but very important. Sending out 2 postcards a month on things that are important or surrounding around real estate. That's a pretty easy thing to do. You guys are all in this world working with inside of real estate. So then we take those simple systems and we say, apply the word discipline into it. Be disciplined to show up and just do that consistently, week after week after week. And it's amazing. You don't need any magic wands to make this thing all of a sudden come together. It just starts to snowball, but you have to show up with that discipline and do it consistently. And where we see a lot of people, Matt, that they are looking for that silver bullet, they're looking for the easy answer. And they're like, yeah. I tried talking to my 50 people a week and I did it for a couple of weeks and I don't know.
Then they got distracted.
And you get distracted. You get pulled in different directions. And then we don't get to see the results of actually showing up and doing all that. We all know. And everybody says, well, if I did that consistently, well, of course I'd be successful in real estate. All right.
Yeah.
Like, let's go.
So let's do it. So funny. But I hope everybody is like getting some value out of this because these simple things, man, can have a massive impact. So show up, be disciplined about showing up. Ask yourself, do I want to be disciplined or do I want to be distracted today? And then add in whichever method you like to help you stay on the course. And you're going to see some outrageous results, particularly right now. I mean, this works any time of year, but a lot of the conversations, Garrett, as you said, like there's more buyers coming back to the marketplace. There's definitely more listings going on the market as well. There's still low inventory. There's still all the same things. And as we said in a prior episode, don't worry about the macro and the headlines. Just focus on your business, focus on these things, and you're going to do great. Appreciate you.
Any big results anybody's ever had out there are consistency with anything, any of those systems that cause it, whether they're positive or negative. You'll know by the results you get. Anything you do consistently over time will always produce you big results and big payout. Again, payout does not always mean positive or negative. We're just telling you in this marketplace right now, the ones that we're watching that are having the wins, the ones that are taken to the next level are having consistency with the right systems over and over and over again. And we've talked enough about what those systems are. So Matt, I appreciate this topic. Thanks for bringing it today, man.
Yeah, thanks for exploring it with me. This was great. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. As always, if you want to join our Facebook community, just head over to Facebook and search for The Ninja Selling Podcast. Over 11,000 people in there. Fastest growing community in the world, as you all know. Great place, great to ask questions, connect with other people. We jump in there and answer questions as well. Typically, there's usually 20 comments by the time we get there, which is fantastic. Then if you want to learn more about Ninja, if you are new to Ninja, head over to ninjaselling.com. You can learn about the installations where you can get a 4-day immersive experience in a Ninja. You can learn more about coaching, where you can get a one-on-one coach to help you build the business and life that you've been wanting. And you can also just grab the Ninja Selling book and start there. In fact, I recommend starting there. If you haven't read that book, just pick up a copy of Ninja Selling by Larry Kendall. Dive in. This is a system that'll change your world, change your business, and change your life. And maybe in that reverse order. So appreciate y'all tuning in. We'll see you on the next one. Garrett, appreciate you, man.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate you, man. Always good. Always fun. If you enjoyed today's episode and would like more, visit us at theninjasellingpodcast.com.
There you will also find links for more information about Ninja Selling and coaching. Have an incredible day.